Hi. Hi, Amanda. Thank you for being here with us. Nice and prompt. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Awesome. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, I'm here. I'm here.
Awesome. All right. So I did some edits. I kind of extended the time for recording. So I don't know if any of you can see like the countdown or how long we have, but it looks like it's extra long just so that if we do go over, we can
Mm.
capture all of the good stuff because there's a lot of amazing information coming along today. Just make sure.
I'll just give you a little update, Jamie, is that of course my web download link is giving me
Okay.
problems. So I'll need about an hour after we finish wrapping up um, to fix the link so that people can download the guide.
That's not a problem because that's about how long it will take me to kind of post it onto the website
Okay.
and have it available for YouTube. So,
Okay,
um,
perfect.
and I was going to say we had a pretty good turnout for registration. So I think a few more are going to be popping
Excellent.
on. So while people are joining us, hi everyone, thanks for being here. And feel free to have your videos on or off.
Yes.
If you are
Yeah, you're right.
not
A little
speaking, please
older.
have your mute on. However, this is an interactive roundtable. So if you do have a question, please feel free to unmute yourself, ask questions. We definitely want this to be as traditional of a roundtable as we can, obviously over Zoom. So let me start by welcoming everybody. Today's Zoom is pregnancy and products. I am so excited for this. And before I introduce Jennifer, I just wanted to quickly chat about the Holistic Spa Alliance conference that we have coming up next year. It is, as most of you know, in April of 2024, the 15th and 16th. And we are going to have 2 days of just gathering and oh man, I don't like everything. A lot of education, just a lot of inspiration, motivation. And this 2 day conference is lecture based. So, what that means is it's going to be about listening, but also taking things in so that you can tangibly turn around and start to implement them immediately into your businesses when we are back home. So it's not just going to be a rah rah hooray like gathering type of convention conference, but it is you're gonna have tangible information so that the theme of the conference is intentional success so that we can turn around and re-implement everything that we've taken that we want to take from it into our businesses. And I mean, who doesn't get something from gathering anyway? I mean, I love gathering with like-minded professionals. And at the end of both days, as a matter of fact, we are going to have what I'm kind of calling, I think, is like the biggest roundtable that I'm aware of, where our educators that are speaking over the 2 days are going to sit as a panel, and we get to basically have an open dialogue of rapid fire questions to get our, personal questions around business, holistic spa success answered right then and there. And everybody will have that opportunity at the end of both days. So yeah, if you want to learn more, go onto the website, holisticspaalliance.com. And let's dive into why we are here today. So I want to introduce Jennifer. And I wrote this down, or it's written down so that I don't miss anything, because Jennifer really is a big deal, and whether she will say this or not. So I want to try to get everything about her in there. So Jennifer obviously is our featured guest today, and she's a cosmetic chemist, which is mind-blowing, right? It's amazing. And she's the founder and formulator at Creation, and that's an offering of experience-driven line of professional grade products that intertwine a holistic approach with the innovative technologies to deliver clinical results. as a holistic esthetician, I love that because we've kind of deemed holistics on this scale of light green to dark green. And I love to work within the light green aspect, those clean cosmeceuticals that really drive and give my clients results because I have both sides of the coin. But I definitely have women who want to come in for specific results. So I love Jennifer's line. Um, But then she's also co-founder of Delphine Organics, which is a cosmetic ingredient supplier, a small batch manufacturer of bulk, ready to use and customizable white label product solutions for estheticians and small businesses alike. So that's just a tidbit of Jennifer. So Jennifer, can you tell us maybe a little bit more in layman's term with everything that I just mentioned? And thank you so
Sure.
much again for being here.
Well, thank you, Jamie, for that lovely introduction. So I started the journey years ago, and of learning about the plants and chemical compositions of plants, and then started to learn how to combine them. That expanded onto looking for more clinical actives, and then going to school to become a qualified cosmetic chemist. Along that journey, I had experienced infertility, which really began to define my journey as a brand founder. And because I became aware of endocrine disruptors, Jamie, you've been with me for a long while now. So you remember when we focused on, we had a huge focus on hormone friendly skincare. It was something that we kind of started to coin ourselves as, but we've changed and grown off of that, but that formed the basis of my passion. And now I find myself, whether or not it had any impact, but now, as you know, I find myself pregnant at 40. So cleaning up my routine, maybe that had an impact, maybe it didn't, but it definitely defined the early years of my journey. And then we just, with my husband, who came on board in the pandemic, he became passionate about learning about the ingredients. And so we started to expand into the second business that mostly my husband runs. But I am the chemist that formulates the products that we now offer in bulk, mostly to estheticians or private label who repackage and resell under their own brand. So it allows estheticians and small brand owners to be able to offer unique products to their clients under their own brand label. And that adds value to their treatments and adds value to their spas. And so that I'm very passionate about, and we're seeing a lot of growth in that area. So it's great to be here today and to provide some information and educational resources for the estheticians and spa owners. So that's, what we're hoping to achieve today. To my big focus here is not to give you, the listeners, the answer, because it's not a one-size-fit-all answer when you're dealing with people who are trying to conceive or pregnant or breastfeeding, but instead to give you resources to make your own knowledgeable decisions so that you can come from a place of confidence and have peace of mind when you're servicing those clients.
I love that approach because I think as a holistic esthetician, practitioner in general, what we talk about is like that intuitive piece. And an intuition comes from facts, knowledge, confidence, right? That does come from somewhere. I think a lot of times we are looking for that list, so to speak, of what can I use, what can I not use? And like you said, there's so much gray area in that.
There is.
But also back to one of the comments that you made, maybe using a line that was a little more cleaned up, it did or did not help. I believe everything has like that cumulative effect, right? So the more that we do omit things that could be possible endocrine disruptors or things that are not as natural for the body, just allows the body to work or be in
Yes,
homeostasis as much as it can.
absolutely.
So
And
anything
it
that
gives
we
you the peace
can
of
do.
mind to know that
Absolutely.
you did everything that you could, right?
Exactly. So
So,
congratulations on being
thank you.
expecting at 40. That's amazing,
Thank you.
actually.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right.
So, do you have questions specifically, Jamie, that you'd like to ask, or how do
Um,
you?
I think I might have questions kind of as they go, but do we
Okay.
want to also open the floor up? Does anybody have any specific questions that they want to start with? Please chime in. Don't feel like you have to wait and be asked anything. And if not, I guess we'll just start to dive in.
Okay. All right. Well, I sent over a little outline sheet of all of the various information. So I guess we'll just start at the top as we
Perfect.
open the discussion. It's important that we start with the full disclosure. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. And I'm a cosmetic chemist. So the information that we discuss here today is not to replace medical advice from a qualified healthcare provider. It is meant for informational purposes, and it is not meant to treat or diagnose. And for those who are pregnant or trying to become pregnant or nursing, they should always consult with a qualified healthcare professional. And I just said that I'm not a medical doctor. So, this is for strictly informational purposes, and I just want to be clear on that. So the first thing to discuss is, you can find an array of information on the internet that will give you lots of different opinions. This is good, this is not. And then you'll find conflicting information, right? But the reality is that when it comes to documentation, I like to make my decisions based on actual data. You don't want to repeat and to go to Google and think that it's qualified information, because if there's a false, a Chinese whispers, everyone's played that game. If there's something that's not factual and it gets picked up, it gets repeated over and over and over again, and people believe it in mainstream, and it may not necessarily be true. So at the end, I will provide a list of places and resources where you can go to read good studies, peer-reviewed studies that will give you some factual information on ingredients that have been tested. However,
Thank
this
you.
is this is part of the issue is there's a huge lack of data on what on testing these ingredients on pregnant women, because who wants to volunteer? I don't. Right?
Yeah.
So there is a lack of data of clinical testing of ingredients on pregnant women, because it brings in a lot of ethical issues. So how does that help us? Right? Well, the list that we do have of ingredients to avoid are because there's been documented problems. There
Okay.
have been documented fertility issues, particularly with birth defects, or there's documented information because they have been found in the bloodstream. So it's like, well, if it makes it into the bloodstream, this can have detrimental effects on the fetus potentially. So that's where it gets kind of dicey on what's good and what's not, is that a lot of the answer is we don't know. So how do you make an educated decision with that,
Right.
right? So the first thing is that to make an educated decision about which ingredients is to understand how the ingredients work on the body, and to understand your skin physiology of how they penetrate and what kind of impact and how far do they get into the skin. And we're going to discuss a very popular myth a little bit later that I know everyone has heard, but is not actual fact-based information. So, medical journals. Right. So, now I want to say that my approach is minimal approach, to use caution, keep it simple, and particularly listen to the body, which you've already touched on that, right? It's like when you have a change and a shift of hormones in pregnancy, who knows what's going to happen,
Yeah.
right? Like, we don't know. We do know that we are more prone to dark spots and melasma and acne and these sort of things, but it's a season of our life. And I'm sure that plenty of people come into your studio saying, "Oh, I have acne. What can you do for me?" But I believe that pregnancy is a time to nurture the body. It's a time to, provide comfort where you can, but it's not a time for rigorous treatments or these intense treatment plans, because the body is it's already really angry. It's already really being tried, and really going through such a huge feat of growing another human, that you have to be aware of. It's going to be more sensitive, it might react differently than how it did prior to becoming pregnant. So you just take it slow.
So you mean angry in the sense of like everything is no longer in full homeostasis because
Yes,
hormones are out of their out of
yes,
whack, for lack of a
yeah,
better term, and you are literally growing another human inside of you, so that the
exactly.
normalcy is not there. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So, and obviously, I mean, I've had a great pregnancy. I don't think my body's been angry. Thank you. Thank you, Lord. I'm so thankful for that. It's been great. However, there are some women who they have, massive acne breakouts and
Really
are very
negative side
discomfortable and
effects.
lots of inflammation, and they might have psoriasis breakouts and dermatitis breakouts and itchy rashes. And I mean, the what you can see in pregnancy varies from person to person,
Right.
right? And so those people are probably the more likely people to even come and see you in the treatment room, because they're like, help, help. And so I think that when we start to see women who are going through this season of life, who are coming into the treatment rooms with these uncomfortable skin things going on, issues going on, is to help them to be comfortable, help them to soothe and calm these conditions. It's not the time for Accutane. It's not the time. It's not the time to pour on acne treatments, and it's the time to try and calm the inflammation, to soothe the body. And now, does that mean we don't use actives? No, it doesn't.
Right.
We'll get more into that, is because there's a lot that you can use, actually. And so we will delve more into that as well.
But perhaps they also need us to be the person to say, "It's okay right now." Just that simple
Yes.
phrase of allowing them to feel okay at a time that they
Yeah.
might not feel okay.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, and you can be their voice of reason to remind them that it's just a season. It's just a season. But there's a lot that you can do um, to even calm breakouts, and to calm and soothe the discomfort that they're experiencing in a
Sure.
safe way in the treatment rooms, which is probably what people would like to know today.
Yes.
Right. So, the branching off of that, being that the community that is most prevalent in your circle is the holistic community. And I just want to stress that just because it's natural doesn't mean it's safe.
Right.
Okay. And this is something that needs to really be at the forefront of your mind when you're dealing with someone who is pregnant. Because when you're dealing with particularly essential oils, because there's so much that we don't know about them. There's so much that there is lots of information out there, lots of scientific data, but there's also a big gap.
Mhm.
And so does that mean to ban them? No. Does that mean you can't use them? No. But
Just be aware that natural doesn't
cautious.
mean safe always, right?
Yes.
Because a plant essence can still be just as active and volatile
Yes.
as a chemically
Correct.
comprised
Yes.
ingredient.
And so I remember years ago, before I started my infertility journey, I had given a massage to a friend with some plants and herbs that I had wild harvested when I lived in the Ozark Mountains. And I had a miscarriage the next day.
Mm,
Guilt that I carried with me was so intense. And of course, I ended up starting to look into more of the plants that I had used in that massage, and two of them had been linked to causing instantaneous abortions. So,
gosh,
um,
so sorry
yes,
to hear that.
no, yes. So you have to, but whether or not it actually, because they were the plant matter, they weren't the volatile essential oils that I'm using. So whether or not that actually was the cause, I'll never know. But that made me very conscious and aware of the real risks when you're
Yeah,
dealing with volatile plants. And so just wanted to get that out there, but don't worry. I'm going to provide a really great resource that will help you to make confident decisions on the essential oils that you use in your treatment rooms. Because that's the thing, is that just, until you build your extensive knowledge on the safety data that is available for the essential oils, you can start with just a few. I know confidently that these couple are great in pregnancy, and you
mhm,
build from there. It's just starting somewhere.
right.
Um, but there is a really great resource that can provide you very quick information that specifically can talk about use in pregnancy. So hooray. A lot of people, I think, will appreciate that.
Yes.
Okay, so uh right. So um talking about starting slow and minimal, right? Is that there are ways to enhance your treatments without having all of the fancy actives in it, right? Like when we're looking to calm and soothe and nurture and relax that pregnant mom, using things like your warm compresses, your cold compresses, and focusing more on the sensorial experience
Mm,
can help to elevate your treatments while keeping it very, very in the safe zone, right?
yeah,
Because that's the thing, is that we've discussed, Jamie, analysis paralysis. It is
yeah.
real, right? So if you have so much information and you're like, I can't absorb all of this right now, then you just don't. So just start simple, and we're going to have some confidence building tips at the end as well, that I think will bring a peace of mind, but just looking for ways to add that sensorial experience that they're really needing in this time of nurturing. And let's see, so I'd like to delve into some skin physiology. Now, one of the greatest challenges as a cosmetic chemist is penetration. Now, there's the myth that 60% of skincare products that we put on our body absorb into our bloodstream. Have you heard this one, Jamie?
Not that it goes directly into the bloodstream. So that piece is new to me, but there is, yeah, a percentage goes in at a certain speed of everything
Yeah.
that goes in. So yeah,
Yes.
I'm intrigued with clearing maybe some of this up
Yes.
that I'm not understanding.
Yes. So it's it's not a black and white topic. It's obviously a very complex topic, but for understanding purposes, it's not true because
Okay.
of the layers of our skin.
Mhm.
Now, this depends on the type of products you use. It depends on where you apply them on your body. So on the soles of our feet or the palms of our hands, nothing gets in. Like it's so the penetration in those parts of the body is very, very, very challenging. But if we're now talking the eyelids or the underarm where the skin layers are thinner, then you have a higher chance of penetration. Now, when we talk about penetration, we're talking about how it moves through the layers of the skin. And like I said, one of the greatest challenges for a cosmetic chemist is to try and get our actives where we need them to be in order for them to work. And it's not that easy because you have the epidermis, the top layer of the skin, right? That is waterproof. Our skin, being the biggest multifunctional organ, was perfectly designed to keep everything out. That's its purpose, is to keep everything out of the body and to protect the inner part of the body. And it's actually really good at doing its job. But when we start getting into advanced formulations that have been designed to get into the body, well, some are successful, many are not. So now how do we measure this, right? And how do we know what products get in and what products don't? And that is really the clear defining point of whether or not the ingredient is safe for pregnancy or not. Does it get in or does it not?
Hmm.
And so if it doesn't get in, well, then it's just staying on the surface of the skin. But is it volatile, like the essential oils? The essential oils are, the molecules are so small that they do have potential to penetrate deep into the deeper layers of the dermis, but they're more likely to evaporate from the skin before penetration,
Okay.
and then we're inhaling them. And that's probably, I would say, the majority of where the benefit comes from with the essential oils. Unless they have they're very viscous, like, sandalwood it's a very thick,
Hmm.
viscous fluid. And so it's not quite as volatile, meaning evaporate easily,
Hmm.
as say grapefruit, right? So that's what we have to be aware of with the essential oils, is that when we're putting it on the skin for, we talked about your massage therapists, is that the massage therapists, you are like golden, because thankfully for you, the top layer of the skin is waterproof. So those oils that you're using to massage, they're really having the purpose of softening and moisturizing the epidermis. They won't typically go past the epidermis, because in order to get past the epidermis and to go into the dermis, they need to have the perfect balance of water and oil to get through into the dermis. So if you are, and I mean, I don't think that I've ever had a massage where they first spritz me down with a nice face mist before before rubbing me down with oil, right? So
Maybe
for
body treatment, but yeah, not a massage.
yeah, exactly. So, so you have a lot more you can it's a lot easier for, I think, massage therapists to be able to make those decisions, because when you're getting into the plant seed oils, I mean, it's free reign. Even the rose hip seed oil, that's a popular one. Oh, you can't use retinols in pregnancy, but rose hip seed has vitamin A. Can you use that? Yes, absolutely, because it's not the same. So, so it's the essential oils that they're rubbing in on the massage that they're inhaling that is more of a factor. And so they still have to know the safety profiles of the essential oils that they're using, but they can also use things that like the mists and things, if they wanted to bring in an aromatic element into the room. So there's different ways that they can bring in that sensorial experience, but they're pretty safe, free reign, because they're staying in the epidermis. And so in the epidermis, I would say that if you hang out there in your treatments, you can have great confidence in what you're putting on the skin. So great confidence, because, and that's where the AHAs, that's where they do their work. That's where a lot of the exfoliants, your clays, and these types of treatments, that they all focus on the epidermis. They all focus on breaking down those dried, crusty skin cells that form, that we try to break down and remove, right? That are all glued together by fatty acids, and that's where the sebum hangs out and the ceramides hang out. And so when you have a client come in, if you remove that crusty surface, what's underneath? Beautiful, glowing, fresh skin. And you have a happy client. Right. Simple. Remove crusty skin. They have glowing skin, and they are a happy client. So that is, if you're focusing on the epidermis, you're having a happy client, and that this isn't going into the dermis, because it's a waterproof layer. So we're not sponges. It can't, soak in. It's waterproof. But the mist, if you put the mist on and then you put the oils on, what does it do? It pulls those water molecules into the skin.
Okay,
and so
I was just, this whole time I'm sitting here thinking, well, it does absorb though, but so it takes purpose for it to happen. So the skin in itself, I'm kind of repeating so I'm understanding. And I did understand this part. It's the exterior protection for the body. But if we purpose for the products we're using to go into the skin, there are ways to help it penetrate into the skin. It would be the mist, or that balance of oil to water. Would things like heat, moist heat, probably do that as well?
Yes, absolutely.
And then obviously with products, you have delivery agents, right?
Yes.
So that's another way of getting things in. So it's not that it's absolutely impenetrable, and we're thinking now as estheticians and massage therapists, wow, I'm really not doing anything, but it's the purpose behind it that's going to help push things into the skin.
Correct. And that's why in your more complex skincare, you have things like liposomal delivery systems.
Yep.
You have penetration enhancers. What's a penetration enhancer? It's something that will help the ingredients in the product go deeper into the skin. And so if you, I should have put a list of penetration enhancers in my guide. So penetration enhancers will be things like propandiol or glycerin can be a penetration enhancer. There's cetyl alcohol can be a penetration enhancer. It's a lot of humectants, and lots of small molecule things like your low molecular weight of hyaluronic acid, which by the way is great for pregnant women. It's a great ingredient to use for pregnant women. So there are ways to get through that impenetrable layer.
It's just
Um,
important to know, otherwise it's a barrier.
yes, otherwise it's a barrier. And so I say this for those estheticians who are maybe uncomfortable with working on pregnant women. You know, they're at the start of, ooh, is this okay? Is that okay? Because it takes time to build knowledge, right? Like
Mhm.
you can people are gonna learn things today and it's gonna go into their short-term memory.
Yep.
But if they, don't take certain steps and actions, it won't move over to the long-term memory.
Right.
So that's where your confidence comes from, is the long-term memory. When you have that feeling of you're confident in what you are moving, what you're doing, and have the and you have the knowledge in your long-term memory
Yep.
that you are confident. So for staying in the epidermis and focusing strictly on the oils and the surface exfoliants, will still provide a great service to the client while you are starting your is this safe for pregnancy journey.
And I see where you're going with that, because just the act of doing, right? Knowing that our skin is perfectly designed to act as a barrier. If you were an esthetician or massage therapist that was more so timid or afraid to work with pregnancy, this starts to give you that confidence, knowing that,
Exactly.
okay, I can do this without
Exactly.
any type of disruption or possibility of harming or not being a positive
Exactly.
outcome. So, and
Exactly.
then the more we do it, it goes into that long term, and then we can take
Correct.
the next steps. Okay, I like
Exactly.
this.
Exactly. It gives you a place to start, because the last thing I want to achieve in this discussion is creating fear. That's
Right.
debilitating.
Yes.
And so we're going to go over lots of information, this potentially lots of words that, people are like, oh, what's that? And so whenever, I've always had this saying, the more that I know, the more I realize I don't know.
Absolutely.
And so that can be debilitating. So
Yes.
spattered in this conversation, I want to have these little tidbits of where, for those who are just kind of starting out on working on pregnant
Right.
women, building confidence in small little steps of knowing that they can confidently do this, and they're not going to cause their client to lose their
Um,
baby. Our bodies have been designed to do this,
yep.
right? They have. And could we go through, if we could just rub a couple of plants on our body and cause an abortion,
Mm.
well, there would be no abortion debate, would there? Right.
Right. Right. So there's more
There's
to
so
it.
much more
Yeah.
to it. There's so much more to it. And I could give you a list of ingredients not to use, which I will give some suggestions towards the end. However, I bet you could also find just as many people who have said, oh, I used that my whole pregnancy and everything was fine, right?
We're
So
also individual, where our chemical
absolutely,
makeup is
absolutely.
unique.
Yes, and there's so much that goes into it. Like I said, where you apply it, how often you apply it.
Yeah.
So another key thing to remember is that your client is not coming into you every day. They're coming into you once a month,
Right.
once every few weeks. And so you're with them for an hour. I mean, you can't do that much damage in an hour. I mean, you can.
I see what you're saying. I see what
But
you're saying.
not in
Yeah.
this category. Not this way. Because if you are confident in the treatment rooms already, and not how to not damage the skin of your client, then I can assure you, you're also not going to cause them to have a miscarriage in that hour.
Okay.
So that alone should give people confidence to work with pregnant women, because you can do far more good than you can bad in that hour with your ingredient selection.
Nice.
So
Okay.
I finished up with the epidermis. what goes on there, right?
Yep.
So now the middle layer, which is where we're going to focus, this is like where hopes and dreams are born in our skin, right? It's
Yes.
where the collagen and elastin hang out.
Yes.
It's where, where our hair follicles are located. It's where our sweat glands are. It's where also our blood supply is, our blood vessels. But that's kind of further down as well.
Mhm.
And it is so hard to get ingredients there. Okay. So, we've had this growth market of patches, the dermal patches,
Yes.
and so that they have the ones that help you to sleep, and it delivers these liposomal systems into the blood supply, and they do all of these things. Well, do you know how it is very difficult to create those products? It
Hmm.
is very difficult. That's why it's such a specialty.
Okay.
It's why every brand doesn't have a dermal patch,
Mm.
that where they introduce their active ingredients that go straight to the collagen builders,
That's
because
a good
they
point.
are complicated.
Hmm.
And I promise you that 99% of the indie brands out there do not have the capacity or the expertise to create dermal patches. So, that being said, well, how much of our skincare is getting that far then? Well, a lot of it is evaporating on the skin. There will be a percentage that gets pulled in, but then the dermis, there's different active, whenever I'm selecting active ingredients, from the suppliers, and they're like, it gets in this far and this far and this far. They have like these little charts of the dermis,
Hmm.
and it'll show this active ingredient goes here, this ingredient goes here, and it shows. Now that is if it's in a perfectly formulated product that has
Okay.
the perfect balance of oil and water, has the perfect balance of penetration enhancers, has been perfectly applied in the perfect place, then you might get 5% of that ingredient to get to where they say it's going to go. So does that mean that I'm saying, oh, well, Jen, are you saying that all skincare products are not effective then? No. What I'm saying is that in order to have the percentage that you need to get into that into the dermis, as a chemist, we have to include more higher concentrations, so that we can make sure that the concentration that we need to see those long-term sustainable results will actually make it that far. So
So
essentially, like,
there's,
some lost,
yeah,
right?
right. So you need a higher percentage so that a little more than just 2% ends up in that area.
Yes,
Yet,
if you
but
need more than 2%.
right.
Yeah.
And yet you don't want to put too much in your, I mean, I don't know why I'm even trying to think like I'm a formulator, because I'm certainly not. But then you want to be careful with how much you're putting in on the skin, because you could,
Correct.
on the surface, disrupt our natural skin barrier and
Right.
create
All other
issues there
issues.
too. So
Right. And so this is
interesting.
why I started with, it's the greatest challenge of a
Okay.
cosmetic chemist to get our active ingredients where they need to go in the proper concentrations to be able to see those long-term sustainable results. But let's be honest, yes, clients want long-term sustainable results, but they want instant results even more.
Yeah. Instant gratification
Yeah,
is,
they
is
do. So
usually our clients.
exactly. And so you have these complex systems that can do this, but many are using them in spas, that are targeted with the clinical actives. But the
Mhm.
point is that what is getting in there is, you don't need a high percentage of some actives in order to see
To see
sustainable
those
long-term
results.
results. But are you going to cause someone to have a miscarriage because of that cream that you put on them? that delivered a small dose of active to their dermis, but they're not using it every day, no, you're not. You're good. You're good. There, so now are we talking about, it's a whole different scale of measurement though, when we're talking about what we're using in the treatment room versus what we're recommending our clients buy and use every day.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay, that makes sense too. Yep.
that is, you wouldn't necessarily advise a pregnant client to use a long-term treatment on their skin every day that you are using in the treatment room,
Right.
because you can't monitor it.
Cumulative, right? The cumulative effect of that. So if we're delivering
Yes.
once a month and
Mhm.
it's difficult to get it down into that certain layer, that's one on one hand. But if they're using it daily, then they're
That's a
seeing
whole different story.
percentage
Yes.
consistently. Okay.
So specifically, the ingredients that come to mind when I say this are salicylic acid and glycolic acid.
Hmm.
So I've heard people say that you shouldn't use salicylic acid in pregnancy. There's salicylic toxicity. It is a thing. So I wouldn't recommend a client to use that in a, say, daily cleanser or a daily
Okay.
treatment on their face, but you can use it in the treatment room. You can use it in the treatment room because it's a one-off, it's minimal in the bigger scheme of things, and it's in a controlled environment. But as soon as you send things home with a client, you have no idea what they're going to do with it.
Yeah.
And so that's something to be cautious of, because in pregnancy, we can be more sensitive. So, when I touched on using the AHAs, and I think you had mentioned to me that people want to know, can I use the acids? Can I use those on my clients? And the answer is yes. There are some guidelines that you want to keep in
Right.
mind. And a client who used to be able to take 10 minutes may only be able to take 2,
Mhm.
so you have to really be attentive to listening to the body and knowing when it says that's it, versus, someone who's not pregnant, their skin can take a lot more than someone who is pregnant per se. So really, you don't want to go, oh, well, I usually leave this mask on for 15 minutes and I can now start to go over there and I can mix my next treatment and yada, yada, yada. And that's what you do with your clients, because it's always fine. You wouldn't
Mhm.
want to do that with someone who's pregnant. You would want to be sure that you're being attentive to the point that just because their skin could take it before they were pregnant doesn't mean that it can now. And so you just want to be really cautious of that. Okay. Let's see, what else do we have here? Use of treatments. So how do you go about selecting ingredients? And we talked about it's about building the confidence and to seek information. And one of the, I don't fully sign on to the California Proposition 65. I don't, I personally, I don't, it's not like
I
I
don't know what
check
that
it.
is.
The
Or
California Proposition 65.
yeah.
So it's in California, there's a regulatory body that puts like these like red labels on all different ingredients.
Mhm.
And they can be very strict in their assessment, in my opinion. But if you are wanting to really gain confidence, and that is based on information, on like actual data and information, it's not a bad resource to give you a little feeling of confidence, because they are quite rigorous in their assessments.
Okay.
It's based on actual scientific data. But as a chemist, when I read scientific data, I always go, but who are they testing here?
Okay.
So it's like, well, that might be kind of bias, Oh, you mean you're slathering on 1,000 milligrams onto a rat and you're telling me it's not safe, but we would never use that sort of concentration. Well, what about if you're using a concentration that's more realistic? Is it still harmful? You know? And I know I just said a rat there, and people are like, animal cruelty, animal testing. But I hate to burst the bubble, but when it comes to animal testing, there's I don't know that there's an ingredient or a chemical on this market that hasn't in its lifeline been tested
Somewhere been
animals.
at some point.
Unfortunately,
Interesting.
that's the reality.
Well, I
So
think, and not to get off on a tangent of any sort, but yeah, I mean, just to start where I first was going to, think of that essential oil again.
yeah,
Or if you put it directly on the skin, it can create a burn. So,
correct.
does that mean, oh, you should never use this? Right. At what percentage, at how much are you using something? And does that mean that essential oil shouldn't be used ever? So I understand that piece, but then now to flip over, and again, I don't want this to go on a tangent, but there's so much greenwashing in our industry in general. I have seen, we love the Leaping Bunny logo,
We
right?
do. Yeah, we
But
have it
then,
for our brand. It
so
was like a requirement,
exactly.
you
So,
know?
and still love, and I think there's still a purpose there. You're making the decision to not test further on animals, but
Correct.
that is an interesting concept that at some
But yet
point,
it is actually
somewhere,
banned. It is banned in the US. So,
right. But
so,
somewhere along
you
the
know,
way it was. So that's, yeah,
yes.
I don't know.
But there are companies, sorry, not to go on a tangent, but there are companies that have been grandfathered in. So
Oh,
for instance, here in Connecticut, we have Pfizer Pharmaceutical down near the coast. And I've met people who have done work at their facility, and they test on chimpanzees. They
interesting.
still test on chimpanzees,
If it's
but
grandfathered
they have
in,
been grandfathered in, which is why they'll never probably move out of the state of Connecticut,
because they'll lose
because they'll lose that
huh,
that exemption that they've been grandfathered in.
yeah.
So
Well, greenwashing is a whole nother conversation. Sorry
it
to put
is.
us there.
Yeah,
Let's
it
get back
really is.
on track.
Okay, back on track. Should we maybe see if anybody dropped any questions? If anybody has any questions of what we've covered so far, because it's been a lot so far. Does anyone have any questions that they would like answered before I continue?
And
I
if
don't
you
know, I think
do,
we
just
have a
make
little
sure
chat.
to unmute yourselves if you do. I don't see any specific.
Okay. Okay,
Okay,
well, I will
keep going.
charge on. Okay, so the California Proposition 65, you'll often see it now on, well, I see it all the time because I deal with ingredients, right? So I don't know if other consumers see this warning. This has been California Proposition 65 listed, I'm not really sure, because that's the funny thing when you go really deep into your industry and your profession, right? You're like, this is common knowledge. Doesn't everybody know this? And it's like, oh, no, they haven't spent their life studying this. They don't notice it at all. Like, so I have no idea if people notice, but it's a good place to, it's a very extensive catalog, where you can type in an ingredient and see if it's listed. The other one that I use all the time, which I don't know if, this is, again, I don't know if it's common knowledge, but it's it's called COSING. It's COSING. And I will provide this in a link to this database in my resource guide. But what's really awesome about that database is that it is, how does the information get in that database? It is a huge roundtable of all of the smartest and brightest scientists that are available in the European Union. and they gather together and they decide based on the scientific data available, that they decide on safety issues, they decide on dermal limits. So when I am formulating a new product, I go in and I type in every single ingredient in that formula into the costing database, because they have such a much more rigorous and strict like law around the use of cosmetic ingredients than the US. The FDA doesn't really I mean, there's some limitations, obviously. You can't use things that are like known poisons, like cyanide. So as helpful as that is,
Thank you, FDA.
yeah, they do have, some regulations on what you can call a color and use as color cosmetics. So they have some, but it's not enough in my opinion.
No.
And so I use the costing
Can
EU.
anybody use costing, or do you have to be okay,
No,
cool. Yeah,
it's
that'll be
a
a great link.
free database. And
Okay.
so when you type in an ingredient, it will tell you if there are, it has, recommend what its function is. So, you might have, say, ascorbic acid, that we use it for brightening and, collagen and, this is what we use it for, but it'll show all of the functions that it can be moisturizing, it can be an antioxidant, it can be, there's all of these different functions that one ingredient can provide, and it will list them for you.
I love that. I love to geek out on stuff like that, but that's
Oh, you
also
can get lost in that
conversation. Yeah.
database. And then they have what they call annexes, which if it's listed in an annex, it will tell you. And that will be like if it has specific warnings, like don't use on pregnant women, there'll be a warning on causing. Then it's sometimes if there has been discussions on its safety, where it's been called into question, there will be the journals and the testing and the conclusions that will also be listed under that ingredient. So it's a great resource to, if you are really wanting to really delve into learning about specific ingredients that you like to use, or if you're going, what is there a, a set limit, like, so can I use 5% of salicylic acid? Is that dangerous? Yes, it is, but
Okay. I didn't know. I wouldn't know that answer.
but it will tell you if there's
Okay.
a dermal limit regulation, it will tell you in costing what is recommended. So that's a really great resource.
I I just want to interject two things.
Absolutely.
We've got about 20-25 minutes left.
Okay.
And Jessica noted that she loves the information so far. So
Excellent.
get that
Excellent.
across.
Hopefully she's getting some useful points. Okay, so educating yourself. Right. So I think that you had mentioned in one of the posts, when can you start back up with your acne treatments and all these types of things? This is a question that has come up.
That fourth trimester, that
Yeah.
postnatal, you're possibly still breastfeeding, or maybe even if you're not, is there a time when your hormones are still readjusting after the birth? Is there a time when you're more vulnerable than not? But now I think because of the conversation we've had, I kind of now know the answer to that, but
Well,
those were my thoughts.
Well, so yes, the information we've discussed so far would help to bring some clarity to that. But again, it's not a clear-cut answer.
Right.
So everybody's different. There's people who still suffer with postpartum depression a year after having a child. Why? Well, after we have, our child, our body can still be out of balance. It can still take time for the hormones to come back into balance, where we feel like a normal person again. And that time frame is just different with everyone. And, yes, it has an impact. If you're breastfeeding, there's lots of people out there that would, say, oh, you're breastfeeding, shouldn't take any medication still because it goes through to the baby. But actually, there's lots of conflicting information that's
Mm,
not true. So, and I don't mean information, I mean like data, like real data,
yep.
like, because they can test breast milk, because we're not at an ethical issue, are we, testing breast milk?
Testing, right. But I guess
So it
it
depends.
just goes back to everything that we've talked about. They're still in that state of being, they should still be nurtured. They should still
Yes.
be getting more of a sensorial. But
Yes.
now I would assume, knowing that maybe if she does have a little bit of adult post uh pregnancy acne, that I could
Mhm.
do a little bit of an acne wash or an AHA in a low percentage, and maybe not send her home with that yet again, and
Yes.
monitor while I'm doing it, because again, with everything being out of balance, I still don't know if she can take 10 minutes, 15 minutes. She might only be able
Correct.
to take 2 to 5 minutes,
Yes, correct.
right?
You're still in that period of anything is possible.
Yeah.
And the statistics are that it takes about 3 to 6 months after giving birth for your hormones to come back into balance. And as they're coming down, I mean, all sorts of things can happen, the post-pregnancy acne. It's like your body's like, whoa, what's happening?
Yeah, another change again.
Yeah, another change. And so it's very much a nurturing stage still. And when they say 3 to 6 months, it's like, well, that's not entirely accurate
Mm,
she's if she's still breastfeeding, because it's more 3 to 6 months after she stops breastfeeding.
right,
So
because the hormone is still being produced that we don't
correct.
normally have when we are no longer. So
Yes,
again, that normal or whatever our balance is not there.
yes,
Um,
correct. Is correct. So it's very personal, person to person basis, close monitoring for the more complex actives that if you're using those creams that are designed to get to the dermis, then what are the actives that you're taking down there still in consideration,
yep.
at that stage, and the sensitivity is still there at that stage. So, um, right. Okay. So I had some consideration points of ingredient focus and recommendations, that I'll just kind of breeze through and review for the safe zone.
So now we're
Um,
going to talk about
yeah,
ingredients specifically. So
ingredients.
now we understand. I'm just making sure
Yep.
I'm where I
Review.
need to
Yep. Go
be.
ahead.
Okay. And so I think before we get into the ingredients, which I know
Yep.
everybody also wants, I'm not going to delay that. Um, Part of, again, being holistically based, holistically minded, part of the service should also be just a gentle reminder
Mhm.
about that, how important sleep is for that mom,
Mhm.
which is kind of like,
Yeah.
ha, yeah, right, right. Anybody with
Yeah.
a new baby or has ever had a baby knows that that's almost impossible. But to still be focused on those aspects of your sleep,
Correct.
your movement, your nutrition, your hydration levels, so that the
Yeah.
body can get itself to its homeostasis.
Correct.
Um,
Correct.
but now, yeah, let's dive into these ingredients because
Yeah, so I will breeze through them quite quickly, just because I know we're at an hour point now. And so some people might have to go, but let me just say before I delve into this, in case anyone has to go, um, is that there will be a guide that reviews the ingredients and some recommendations that they will be able to download the infographic, including all of these resources that I've said where they can go get knowledge, that they will be able to, in an hour, after we finish, I will fix the button for them to download. But this is
Perfect.
where they will go. It's just delphineorganics.com/pregnancy. And in about an hour, I will get the button up and going,
And
and
I'll
you
have
will be
that
able to.
linked as well.
Perfect.
So yeah, and I'll reiterate
Perfect.
that to everybody.
Yep,
So
and it will have, there's a number of peer-reviewed journals that discuss specific ingredients that have panels of dermatologists and that have gone over and reviewed the data on a lot of these ingredients. So it'll be a great resource to download in an hour. Okay, so some quick pointers of just how to have confidence and to deliver is to just if you are focusing on the epidermis and the mode of and knowledgeable of the mode of action, how is this ingredient working in my client's skin, that will give you confidence in the treatment room. Specifically, you just want to be aware that they could be more sensitive to the treatments, the acid treatments particularly.
right.
That, a reminder in the treatment room, you're talking a one-off experience that they're not doing every day. It's very unlikely you are going to cause any serious harm to your client. So allow that to provide some peace of mind. I know in a lot of holistic treatment rooms, you're using things like oil-based moisturizers and the face oils, the body oils, and you're using mists. There's the mists. I mean, they are the byproduct of making the essential oil, right? So they won't have the same risk level of the essential oils that are evaporating and they're breathing in.
Okay.
Instead, will they penetrate into the skin, these small molecules that are floating in the hydrosol? Yes, they have the potential to do so with adding on the oils and the occlusive ingredients like your balms. It can pull it into the skin and plump the skin, but it's unlikely to be making it to the bloodstream at that point. So those are safe, safe to use, can be a great way to enhance the treatments and to bring in that aromatic component and feel confident in that. The oil-based balms and moisturizers and the creams that have things like cetyl alcohol, the emulsifiers, the waxy emulsifiers, those provide the occlusivity that helps to hold in the moisture and helps to draw in the mists that you put on the skin. Those are all fair game. And they will give, that softening, moisturizing feeling to your clients. I really have started to love the more water-based products in my pregnancy. They're very gentle. They focus on humectants. And like our product Tachio is like, it's actually a gel cream, but then has a very small concentration of occlusive emulsifiers.
I love that. It's like my new favorite, by the way, but
Isn't it gorgeous?
We'll talk later.
Like, yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous because it's really bringing that the humectants are what is making your client feel that their skin has been hydrated. It's the humectants. And in order for their skin to feel soft, it's the oils and that smoothing is the occlusives. And so having that perfect balance, and I'll even say, full disclosure, blue tansy, which is in Tachio, they say, oh, you shouldn't use it in pregnancy. I've been using it for 8 months. Because I know that there's such a small concentration in it. It's not overpowering. Like I'm not inhaling it. And
Yeah.
even though it's delivering the actives to the dermis, it's not in a high enough concentration to have any sort of impact. I'm not telling you to do it, but I do it.
No, right. No, I do understand. Everything is a bit of a gray.
Mhm. My
Yeah.
skin's been loving it in pregnancy. So but the gel based moisturizers that are water based but have penetration enhancers in them, those, those can penetrate the waterproof layer of the skin, even though they're water based, because they have the penetration enhancers in them
Okay.
that help them to get through.
So again,
So
for me, it might be a one-off in my treatment room because I know it's a low percentage every now and then, but I might not send my client home for
yes,
every day, all day use.
exactly,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, I use it, but I wouldn't necessarily,
It's also
um,
your formulation from your company
exactly.
as a scientist, so
Exactly. My confidence level is is whole
different.
different than your client who
Okay.
goes to the internet and Googles blue tansy and is like, "I should go to the head," So a whole different ball game.
Okay.
Okay, and then I just touched base on here is really just bringing in some of the sensorial elements for your clients of the cold compresses, the warm compresses, and
Yep.
that can really elevate your treatment while still having it be gentle and you're fully in the safe zone.
Yep.
Um, Essential oils, I had a little note here, because I don't know if people know this. And I mean, I did know this, but then I was reading my essential oil guide, kind of like going through some essential oils that had good safety profiles. And I was like, oh my goodness, I knew this, but like I forgot this. Is that phthalates are such a big discussion, right? That's
Yeah.
the thing, that why one of the biggest reasons we stay away from fragrance. But actually, phthalates are also a very common additive to essential oils.
Non-reputable, though.
Non-reputable,
Okay.
yes, non-reputable. So this is why, and I was like, like, wow, this is the reason why you want to be careful with who you're sourcing your essential oils
Right.
from. You also want to be careful that, so for us, we like to work directly with the farms and then have them tested from there, or we buy in large quantities from a distributor who has imported them, who has done extensive testing.
Okay.
And so just keep this in mind when you are sourcing essential oils, is that they if it's an irreputable source, or if it has a long supply chain, and you don't really know, they the phthalates are, what I was reading, is more commonly added to the resinoids and the thick essential oils that are kind of hard to pour, because it makes them easier to pour.
Okay.
So just be careful when sourcing, that you don't want to buy your essential oils from Amazon. I'm sure everybody knows this already.
It's a good reminder because I actually don't think I was as aware about phthalates in being an added ingredient in. As I'm saying this, I'm also realizing, well, that's why you pay attention to who you're sourcing from. But
Yes,
to finish that sentence, I didn't realize that that was an added ingredient in
right.
ill
Irreputable, yeah.
represented companies with
Yes,
essential
yes. I
oils.
was like,
So
oh,
yeah,
that's, yeah. So we know why we know that we need to source from reputable companies,
Mhm.
and it's just a good reminder why we need to
Exactly.
be careful. So I'll just run through a couple bullet points. Again, this is going to be in the download. So there's lots of there's actually I'll just say that the essential oil guide by the Tisserand Institute and Rodney Young, excellent. Absolutely excellent. And I
That
recommend
resource will be in
everyone
the
has it.
download.
It's going to be in the
Okay.
download. It's so comprehensive, with all sorts of information about just about every essential oil. And so just a quick run through of the recommended list.
Mhm.
You're going to be pleasantly surprised. It probably includes most things that you're going to use in your treatment room. Jamie added some more to the list today since I sent
Oh,
it to her
awesome.
last night. So all of your plant seed oils, your vitamin C and its derivatives, peptides, niacinamide, ferulic acid, bakuchiol. Jamie, we've had some conversations about bakuchiol and your clients feeling that they needed to treat it like a retinoid with 6 months on, 6 months off. And I've actually been in direct contact with the manufacturer all last week. They sent me lots of documentations on why that it doesn't need to be treated like a retinoid. And so you can actually use it year round, every day.
I
And
love
I
that.
have some documentation now that I can hand over to you so that you can have some confidence being able to pass this on to your clients. So yay, we can continue to sell them some bakuchiol backed by actual data. And so there's then I have salicylic acid and glycolic acid on the list. Particularly, so there are some limitations with some of these, like uracilic acid, and well, actually, it's only really azelaic acid and salicylic acid. It's just a matter of using, one
Certain
off.
percentage.
Exactly. So I think, yeah, so for salicylic acid, the journal said that its risk is very low if it's restricted in small amounts, in small areas for a limited duration.
Mm-hmm.
You just wouldn't want to use it broadly day to day,
Yep.
sort of use. Then we have lipoic acid, which is an antioxidant that's actually in some of our Renovo masks. It's a very effective antioxidant. Vitamin E, your clays, AHAs, which are considered safe to use in a concentration up to 10%
Up
with a
to
pH
10%.
up to 10%, with a pH of more than 3.5. Now we've touched on pH to pH with in the treatment room, but
That'll be
so
another conversation.
that's a whole different conversation.
That
Um,
that's a whole
that's
yes.
a whole different conversation. And then, but Reservedol, I was actually surprised when I was reading the journal on Reservedol because I had heard, you wanting to stay away from Reservedol in pregnancy.
Right.
That's what I had read. And I was reading the journals last night because I was quite fascinated that no, that only applies to consuming it,
Instead of
not applying it to the skin. So that's good to know because I don't foresee me eating Reservedol in high concentration. So and then hyaluronic acid, panthenol, allantoin, alpha-arbutin, and tranexamic acid, which is really great for dark spots, can be used all throughout pregnancy as well. And then your azelaic acid. Now, thankfully, the ones that are absolutely like, no, stay away from are a itty bitty little list.
I was so surprised, but I am no longer after this conversation. And so
Good.
what are those?
Has it given you confidence to be able to go into the treatment room? And
Yes.
so excellent. There's only 4 on the list. And that's what you probably already have heard, that you're not to use retinoids, retinoic acid. And that particularly is because there is data that exists that has shown that it enters the bloodstream. There was, I think, 4 cases of that they have directly linked it to birth defects.
Well,
Now, I didn't delve into those 4 cases
mhm.
as much as I, I would be interested in delving into those 4 cases they have out of all of the people that probably have used it in pregnancy, but never mind. The point is that, is it going to penetrate, and does it have the ability to make it into the bloodstream? And
That's the key
which is
difference.
called systemic, it's a
Yeah.
systemic ingredient. And so they have found it does. So we stay away from those. And that doesn't transfer to ingredients like bakuchiol because its mode of action is different. Even though it produces comparable results, it doesn't do it in the same mode of action. And that's what's important here. So then you have the hydroquinone. Now, interestingly enough, the alpha-arbutin converts to hydroquinone in the body, in the system, which is why alpha-arbutin is a very effective skin brightening, lightening ingredient. However, it doesn't perform the same as the pure hydroquinone in the skin.
Okay.
So its mode of action is different. And so that's why in the recommended, yes, I can use is alpha-arbutin. The no, I can't use is the hydroquinone.
I see another like round table on just ingredients, but
yeah,
where we only have like a few minutes left,
yep.
I digress.
And so, and then the last one is just kojic acid and tretinoin. But that one is controversial because the data is wishy-washy. But the journals have said to be on the safe side.
Yeah.
Don't use it. So I just would choose not to use it for that reason.
Yep. And I think in general, so to also put us into different categories, if you're working for a large spa, that's really why they err on the side of caution, and they don't let a lot of these things that we found out maybe used one-off is definitely okay. Because they have a higher liability aspect. They see more people, they have many therapists that are doing different things in the rooms. And then you have, I myself am an independent esthetician massage therapist, and I still like to err on the side of caution. So until now, I have not used even glycolics on my pregnant clients coming in for a facial. But I have also almost always done my facials for my pregnant clients as the sensorial, as you've said, experience. So they still get a great cleanse. I use a lot of Kanza wand and use copper on the skin, and they're there to be pampered, to be taken care of and treated. And we'll save those correctives for later, right? Because the skin is still going on things. But today, what I think you've done beautifully is you've answered like the why. Now we've had a conversation that I knew we were having this roundtable for a purpose, but my mind kind of went to, okay, we're going to run down the list of do's and don'ts, but you took it a step further by giving us the why. I am remembering back to school on the layers of the skin and penetration, and knowing and understanding that why now gives me, and I hope it has for the rest of everybody who has joined, the confidence of knowing I can use this if it's appropriate for today, if they're carrying a healthy pregnancy. I'm obviously have done my intake with them. We know that they've not had any past or history with tough pregnancies or deliveries or etc. So I really love how you delivered this today. You are a wealth of information. I felt like there was so many times that we could have gone down individual lanes and really gone even deeper because you have so much information, and I really appreciated understanding this to the level that
I find it humorous though that you thought that you were going to be able to have a conversation with me in a half hour.
And that is why I extended the time of this being recorded. I'm like, I do not want this cut off. So, Amina and Jessica, thank you so much for hanging in there for the whole, the extra long version of this, but it was well put together. Ladies, do you have any questions for Jennifer? While we do have her, I have about 10 minutes more of recording time. If you do have any specifics that you'd like answered or anything reiterated, feel free to unmute, or even type it into notes if you do.
And oh, no questions. Well, it's great to have you, Jessica. And if any questions come up, anyone can email me as well if they want some clarification or
So that's
things
what I
set.
want to ask you is like, how can
Yep.
people get a hold of you? How can people see these amazing products that you have? How can people find this bulk ingredients if somebody here is a formulator?
Yeah, so they would the link that I posted, the delphineorganics.com/pregnancy. When they go to that link, they will see all of our resources. They can contact me through there, the shop for the ingredients and for the bulk private label, if they're wanting to have some custom products well, actually I say custom, but we are not taking custom clients right now because I'm due in 5 weeks. So but the bulk products that they're white label, they can purchase them from there. So they can just contact me through there. They can view what we offer there. If they're interested in our product line, that's creationskin.com. But yeah, you can contact me through there, through this delphineorganics.com link. There's a contact page. You can submit emails and questions there. You can also reach me directly at just Jennifer@delphineorganics.com. And I try to be good about answering emails from there, but I think that everyone's going to find the resource guide very helpful
I can't
to
wait.
help
Yeah.
them on their journey, because that's what's going to give the confidence, is you gaining your own plethora of knowledge and expertise. And I have narrowed down some resources for everybody to do that. So
Thank you.
I'm glad to be helpful. What good is knowledge if we don't get to share it and help to empower others? So appreciate you having me today.
Oh, I so appreciate. And I can't believe if you're going to be delivering in 5 weeks, like I had no mental space to like retain and share. And so you've done really well considering.
Why I needed an outline. I had to keep myself on track.
Yeah. But this recording will be posted soon, and all of the links that Jennifer's been talking about, you can find posted with uh, uh, here in the chats, as well as a link to our website. So
Perfect.
thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jennifer,
Thank you everyone
so
for
much.
attending. Thanks so much, Jamie. And we will be in touch soon.
Wonderful. Have a great day,
All right,
everyone.
thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.